You're listening to Remotely We Are One, a podcast to help inspire others to take their lives back from the office commute. I'm Rick, a passionate beer rep who loves the industry but hates the commute.
And I'm Kaleem, a remote work advocate and consultant. We're going to speak with some of the top professionals who have managed to avoid the commute as they share stories from the most inspiring to the most comical, all while working remotely.
Man, this sounds exciting. Let's clock in.
I'm going to need some enunciation on the last name here.
You sure you want to try that? It's Dedekoca.
Dedekoca?
Wow, it's impressive. Yeah, you got it in the first time. Yeah.
He's a real pro, in case you haven't noticed.
Dedekoca? Is it Dedekoca?
That's right. Exactly.
So is it better to say it faster, like Dedekoca?
However you feel like. Because
Okay.
it's really impressive. Really, he's the first person who pronounced it well at the first time. This is happening for the first time.
Well, not really, because I heard you.
Really?
I mean, you said it first real quickly. So I cheated a little bit. So I got a chance to hear you say it very quickly. And honestly, it does sound like the way it's spelled.
Yeah.
You know, everything in Turkish, you just read it as it's written. So there's no catch.
Yeah.
If you know how to pronounce the letters, it's just like you read it as it's written.
English is so awful that way.
You never know. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
you
exactly.
never know why.
Welcome back, everyone, to Remotely We Are One. I'm your host, Rick Haney, joined by Kaleem Clarkson. Hey, Kaleem.
Bonjour, monsieur. Comment allez-vous?
Okay. We are excited to bring you another episode of our remote work podcast. Tell us why we're excited today, Kaleem.
Okay, so today's guest, very interesting. All of our guests are interesting. You just stop it right now, sir, okay? Stop smiling at me.
I can't help it. I'm just so happy right now.
I mean, and that's the great part about this podcast. It ties into happiness. And today we have a happiness coach on board. I'm really curious about her experience at Elance and Odesk as a startup mobilizer. I find that very, very interesting. She is a serial entrepreneur. She's created 5 different startups.
Wow.
She's the head of community at Vertisant. Okay. And last but not least, she is the founder at Happy Work Studio, Miss Mine Dedekoca. Warm welcome.
Yay! Welcome, Mina.
Shall I kick it off with Turkish? So you kick it off with French. I had the urge to kick it off in Turkish.
Go for it. Yes, please go
do.
for it. Say hello. Hello to all your Turkish friends out
Merhaba,
there.
merhaba, iyi akşamlar, iyi akşamlar.
Yes. Nice. So what did you say? Did you say something nice?
Hello. Good evening to everyone from Turkey.
Okay, cool. Hopefully you're just not messing with us and you were like, I'm going to mess with these guys right now and say, why did the chicken cross the road?
Right.
You big dummies.
Big dumb Americans can't even speak French.
Or Turkish.
Yeah. Oh, well, Mina, thank you. It is an absolute pleasure to be talking with you. I'm so excited to be talking about happy work culture. But first and foremost, I got to ask, how did you get started in remote work initially?
So it was back in 2012 when it was not a thing. So, people were just being skeptical about remote work, and because they were so used to that traditional way of working. And that's when I started working for Elance Odesk, which is Outwork now. And it used to be Elance only when I started.
It was Elance, then it was Odesk, right?
Exactly. So they merged. And the thing was, how I found about it was it was my first startup. I was just starting up my first digital startup. It was an online digital invitation website. And I was just hiring the designers on Elance. And so one day there was just a job post like asking if you were interested in, because there was like specific locations that they were looking for people, and there was this job post about startup mobilizer, and I then applied, went through the virtual interviews, which is really popular today, but it wasn't as popular back
What were
then.
you using? Do you remember like
uh,
WebEx or something
no,
or
no, higher view. They were
higher
using
view?
higher view. Actually, I mean, when I think about it, because like we were a team, we were like a remote team from different countries and cities. When I think about those days, we were really a remote team, and we had everything, the internal communication, the
Hmm.
asynchronous collaboration tools, everything in place.
What were some other tools? Do you remember some other tools? Do you remember?
What were we really using? We didn't have G Drive. What did we use? I don't remember.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I derailed your conversation. I was just thinking it's so great to hear the different types of tools that people were using back in the day. I thought it was kind of
We didn't
interesting.
have Zoom for sure,
Definitely, yeah.
but we were just like, because like we had like the weekly calls, the meetings, the virtual meetings,
Hmm.
because we had Facebook group. Now I remember, yeah, we had this Facebook group, the closed group, where we were just like exchanging ideas,
Oh,
exchanging
wow.
experiences with each other. Yeah, that's
That's
how we were
interesting.
collaborating. Now I remember, we didn't have Slack. It was only that Facebook group, and we were just like having these weekly meetings, and just like, having those conversations, exchanging ideas, and we were just like getting together once every 6 months. So it was kind of like the retreats that remote companies are doing at the moment.
So, what did you do as a startup mobilizer? What was your role focused on?
Okay, actually, like there were two roles: freelance mobilizer and startup mobilizer. As a startup mobilizer, I was like organizing events for the startups, sponsoring events, organizing events
Mm.
for the startups in Turkey to talk about agile workforce, like how they can leverage the power of agile workforce, the freelancers, so that they can hire those, and without impacting their cash flow, they can just like utilize the power of agile workforce. So I was talking about the future of work, the agile workforce, the
Yes.
remote work, how to just
Yeah.
like work as a freelancer. I was just like giving training to people to bid, how to post jobs to attract like high quality freelancers. So we were talking about those things before it was a thing, but we were also showcasing the startups and small businesses that this is going to be something huge in 2023. I remember that the exact date. So we were saying that by 2023, at least the half of the workforce is going to be working remotely.
Oh, you remember the stat
Wow.
you were saying, huh?
But that happened even sooner. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it happened a little faster than that.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so fascinating that you remember the statistic that you were repeating back
Yeah,
then.
because I did it so many times. I did that presentation over and over. So
Hmm.
it's just like even the chart and all those stats, they're just like engraved in my brain.
Just out
Yep.
of curiosity, so you were out there talking to a lot of startups. I just kind of find this fascinating because there's a part of me that was attracted to the gig economy and
Mm.
people being their own entity themselves and making a living based on what they say their value is worth. There's a lot of attraction for that to me, but I still understand why you would want to work for a company, and I still respect that. But could you talk a little bit more about your thoughts on the impact of remote work in that gig economy and that freelance economy? Basically, gig economy, for some people who may not know, is the idea of everyone is a freelancer and you just, at some point you just kind of work for yourself and you work as a freelancer. So that's a pretty basic version, I guess, of that definition. But what are your thoughts on, remote work moving forward and its impact on that industry?
I think it has a huge impact because the mindset of the companies have changed over time. So they were like more open to the idea of having this, like keeping a core team, and like also keeping this talent network, or like the gig network, uh, just like apart from their core team. So having
Yeah.
that shift in their mindset has really accelerated the volume of gig economy. So that's why I think that happened even sooner. But the thing is, I think we should also differentiate remote work from like the freelancing too, because for some remote work is just like a day
Right.
job, and they're fully employed, like full-time employed, and they're just like working remotely. And for some, they're contractors, and I just like regard the contractors as like freelancers too, because they're not exactly like employees. They're like
Yes.
separate entities by themselves. So I regard each contractor as an entity himself, because they're just like small companies and just like personal brands and just like working for themselves. So we have to differentiate those two things.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
like, but the mindset, like the companies being open to those, opportunities, because now when we are thinking about, like, let's say 10 years ago, we had more expats, but now
Yes.
people are just like, companies are questioning whether they need expats, because they can just hire those people in their specific locations. And today, like I was having a call with remote.com, that's
Yeah.
what they do. They're building legal entities in specific countries so that they can help the companies all around the world to hire people as employees in those specific locations. So everything is changing so rapidly. We have all these startups, we have all these utility companies that are supporting this. So I think
Mm.
this is even going to grow bigger. Now, the biggest constraint is the law, like the legal taxation and, the legal requirements.
But that's why remote.com
Yeah.
exists. They
Exactly.
are your, are they, is it called PEO? Am I saying that correct? What's,
EEOR, I think.
yeah, I can't remember the name, the employee of record, maybe. Yeah, so they set up,
Mhm.
for companies so that they don't have to worry about all the tax complications of hiring an employee and paying that tax and all that stuff. Remote sets up the entity in that area, and I'm probably not explaining it exactly to the T as far as the legalities, but you're basically now working through remote to hire that talent.
And you're making it legitimate, because
Yeah.
that was the biggest question mark in
Mm-hmm.
the minds of the companies, and they were just like being reluctant about just like hiring remote workers in different locations. But now everything's becoming possible for those companies.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's just easier to pay remote to do it.
Mm.
Exactly. And like
Mhm.
coming back to your question, I think that was a mindset shift. So people were really reluctant when I was just like giving those trainings, or when I was like doing those events, people were just
Mm-hmm.
like not sure about leaving their traditional job and just like move towards a freelancing or just a contractor job, because they didn't think that it was stable. And I was just like questioning, is your day job stable with this
Yes.
economy?
Yes. It's
Mhm.
People
exactly.
just like don't realize that. And the thing is, with your traditional job, you're just like spending your time there doing the same thing like
Mm-hmm.
over and over the years. I know people like working at traditional jobs in the same company for 10 years. What can you add to yourself and to that company, something new, after 10 years?
Yeah. It's tough. It's tough. It's tough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is incredibly tough. Wow, it's like you're almost, I don't want to say you're reading my mind, but you've just answered like two of my next three questions. So I'm totally, totally in a loop here. But um, let's dive a little bit deeper into the culture of the workplace. And I'm wondering about your insight on the timing of all of this. Seems like everywhere you turn, there's something about the great resignation and people have had enough and blah, blah, blah. And it seems like employers are kind of late to the punch on why a lot of people want to leave their traditional jobs. So, can we talk a little bit about the happiness culture that people are seeking but they're not getting, and how employers are adapting to that, or maybe they're not?
So I think the biggest challenge is that our lifestyle has changed,
Mm-hmm.
like for the last decade, let's say, but our work life hasn't changed over the last decade. So that's what happened. So people were just like, the big companies did not see this coming. And they were not, I mean, some companies, yes, they were just like, adapting to the change, and they were just like the Gen Z coming and just like adapting their culture to the new wave. But it was after the pandemic that they feel themselves like obliged to take some actions. So until
Right.
that
Right.
point, it was like, they had to do it.
Yeah. It wasn't a priority.
Exactly. So it was just like some kind of thing, doing a workshop about happiness at work, or just being a speaker at an event about happiness at work, and to just like show themselves being into the topic, but not really internalizing it.
Mm-hmm.
But after the pandemic, things have shifted because what happened? We all went back to our basics. We remembered about our basics and what's important in our lives, which is like, health, family. Like we were just like, we were reset to our basics. So
Mm.
that's what happened. That's how people came to a realization in the day-to-day job. You don't realize what's happening because you're like a hamster in the,
Yeah.
and just like
Yeah.
turning the wheel, and
Hmm.
things need to get done. You have to just rush to the meetings, deadlines. Everything is so hypnotizing that you don't even realize what was important in your life. So when everything came to a stop, so everything stopped. I mean, the life stopped. So it's just like the wheel stopped. So you didn't have that wheel that you have to turn like as a hamster. So you just like started looking around.
Right. Oh, that's what this looks like. I've been
Yeah.
Exactly.
driving. I've been
Wow.
driving this road every single day. Let me take a walk because I need to go walk somewhere.
Yeah.
And
And there's no traffic. There's nowhere to go. Even just like
yeah,
over the weekends, we were just like rushing from one activity to the other, taking kids to there and just like getting together with friends, going out. But we were all by ourselves with our families. So that's how we started realizing what has happened over the last decade. Like everything was changing, even like the Instagram stories. Everything is just like it just goes away in 24 hours. Everything was just like so quick, so just like consuming, so like consumption, 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 and all of a sudden we just realized that it was something like fake happening, and there was something that was changing. But in the work life, I mean, think about it. It's just like the same thing, the Taylorism. If we go back to
right.
the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, that's why the offices were designed, so that people could be managed, and so that,
Thank you.
even that Taylorism, the
Controlled.
lines and
Controlled.
controlled.
Yes. Yeah.
But this is
Yeah.
not the time for that.
No.
Things have changed.
So, what do you think is, as far as happiness goes at the workplace, where do you think leadership is missing in the mark? Like, where do you think leadership is just not seeing the value? Because
Mm.
obviously, we have a lot of entrepreneurs that are probably listening to this, as far as implementing remote work. We always talk about ensuring that the remote employee experience is optimal, and you need to ensure that your employees are engaged. And a lot of times people do confuse engagement with happiness, but happiness is part of
Mm.
that. Where are you seeing the big challenges, that the leadership's blind spots when it comes to happiness? And then where do you see the value as a business owner or a startup? Where are you seeing that value?
I think it's about the mindset now, because like the leaders, they are still like, if we think about their age, they are still from the last generation. So this change is not going to fully take place until the new generation comes to the leadership position, because the leaders at this moment, they have to unlearn everything over the course of, let's say, the 20 years, 25, 30 years that they have experienced, and just like learn about something new. So that's really challenging for the leaders. I mean, we have to empathize that too. We have to show some empathy to the leaders, because it's not something simple. They are really going through a challenging time. And I think the biggest thing is trust, because like I'm consulting companies, I'm giving them consultancy for their transition to remote or remote first way of working. And the biggest challenge that they have is performance tracking or controlling. I mean, the first thing that they were not sure about was what's going to happen. Are they going to work? Are they going to just lie down on the couch all the day, or just are they really going to work? And the thing is, because the system is not designed for that.
Right. That they're used to a different way of managing. So now it's more about trying to come up with KPIs, key performance indicators, things that you can measure, things that they can measure, setting those
Yeah.
goals, establishing what those marks are. And it takes a lot of work to switch that way. I'm sure that there'll be some people that will have challenges, but
If it's designed like that, it's so simple. I mean, you have the KPI, you have the deadline, you know what to do, and you do it. That's so simple. Why are you just overcomplicating things? It's so simple. You are being an adult in your work life because until now, we were just like, acting as if the employees were like little children and the employees were also just like thinking themselves as little children, asking for what to do next or if it was okay to do it. So now we
Mhm.
are telling the employees that now you're an adult. Now you're an adult in the workplace too, because like before that, they were adults in all of their, in the other parts of their life, but not at the workplace. Now we are telling them, now you're adults. You will make your schedule. You will make sure that you hit the deadline. It's just like more autonomous. And because now it's the way adults just behave. So why would it be different at the workplace where you're just like acting, you know? I think that's why it was challenging. It's kind of like, moving from adolescent to being an adult because it
Mhm.
was like challenging trying to just like adapt yourself to that new life. So that was the teenage. That's that's the challenge of being a teenager. Now it's kind of like you're being from like transitioning from being an adolescent at work to being an adult.
Interesting. So, if you could give advice to somebody who has never done remote work before and is really this whole pandemic, this shift that we're seeing has really opened their eyes and they're ready to start over in a completely new career because they're convinced that remote work is for them. What advice would you give for somebody who really wants to make that leap but hasn't quite done so yet?
First, obviously, they have to just adapt their mindset to
Hmm.
the remote way of working because it's
Hmm.
totally a different mindset. And they have to be self-disciplined. I think that's the key to a remote workers. If you don't have self-discipline, because you can just wake up late. I mean, it's okay to wake up late, but not like every day or just like, even if you wake up late, you have to make sure that you are fulfilling all the requirements that are expected from you or that you have the self-discipline, self-motivation because no one's going to tell you to do something. It's not like you have to be at the office at 9. No, you can spend half the time at your desk as long as you get finished with what you need to do. But that has to come with a self discipline. So you have to just like, balance your personal chores with the professional ones. What I do is I design my day so that I spend time with my kids, that I spend time with my friends throughout the week. There is never a week without having a coffee plan or a breakfast plan with one of my friends.
Right.
Okay.
Drinking during the day is not good. That's one thing. I've been pretty drunk by noon a bunch of times.
Everyone has their lessons, true.
Something I'm not proud of, and it's something that I'm not, advocating for. But you learn the hard way. You figure,
Yeah.
oh, let me just have one Bloody Mary at 9 before my
Hmm.
next conference call. And then the conference call's over in like 15, 20 minutes. So you're like, well, why don't I just mix another bloody? And then before you know it, you're 5 bloodies deep. Then what?
Yeah.
Then what are you supposed to do, Rick? What are you supposed to do at that point? Right.
Yeah.
As I said, this is like being a teenager and learning to be an adult.
So don't drink is a suggestion that I would provide.
But that's an experience. That's what life is.
It's all part of it. It's all part of the
Exactly.
experience. I'm agreeing with you, Mina.
You don't get to experience it in an
Right.
office.
It's
So
true.
that's why I'm saying self-discipline. I mean, you just take your own responsibility. I mean, you keep yourself accountable for everything that you do. And
Even for health, I mean, if you want to
yeah,
kind of get this kind of back to happiness, you do have to take care of yourself. It's so easy. The funniest thing is that all these organizations, the reason why they haven't just shut down remote work, don't trip people. Don't trip. Like, if they didn't see that they weren't making money, damn a COVID.
Yeah.
You'd be in an office working with like a hazmat suit on if they realized that like that was the most productive. But what they realize is people are spending way more time working. They're way more productive. They're not wasting 2 hours. They're getting so much productivity out of this. They don't even know what to do. They're like,
okay.
shoot, what do we do? What do we do? Because people are getting a lot more time in. They're
Yeah.
happier and there's more productivity happens. So like there's this conflict of, well, we need to bring them back because, well, we might have invested into this 10-year lease into this building for, 20, 30, 40, in some cases, hundreds of millions of dollars. What do we do with this empty space?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
was like what most of the companies were thinking. But like, why would I now, like, even myself, like, why would I waste my time? Because, like, in the big cities, we have the traffic jam. Why would I waste my precious time, which is, I think, the most precious thing in the world now,
Yeah.
in this age, time? So why would I waste it saying just like doing nothing in the traffic?
Exactly. To me, the whole thing is kind of like a double-edged sword with the employer and the employee. The employees are finally raising their arms up. Yeah, I got my freedom back. This is wonderful. And then the employers are looking back at them and saying, "What freedom? What are you talking about? What, you never had freedom, you know?" So it's like a tug of war, so to speak. It's just
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah. And by the way, with some companies like tracking tools, they're even like asking like the for
No.
the employees, they have these tracking tools. It's like punching a card. I mean, come on, that was
Yeah.
like that's old fashioned.
Yeah.
And
You're not going to remain competitive. We had one of our guests talk about, like, well, why did, Chase, why did Doist
mm,
invest in
yeah,
a head of remote? Because you're already been doing it for years. You're already one of the leaders in providing education around this space. Why the investment in the title? And he's like, we want to excel. We want to excel at it. Because it's no
exactly.
longer going to be a competitive advantage like it was before. In
True.
order for us to excel at it, we have to put resources towards it. And the ones who are going to add all of this tracking software and trying to exploit people, it's just not going to work out. So yes, you're
True.
going to have some of those people that do that, but they're not going to be as competitive as some other people in their industry.
Yeah, and the biggest competition at the moment is talent, and it's going to even be bigger. So, I mean, if you want to keep the quality talent, if you want to attract quality talent, you have to make sure that people are feeling, I don't like to say engaged because it's.
It's a vague term.
Exactly. The thing is, I mean, or like happy. Okay, they think that's just like bringing people into a retreat or sending them Starbucks vouchers is making people happy and engaged. That's not it. You have to make sure that they feel like accountable and they feel
Hmm.
like they are the founder of the company. So that's the engagement. If
Hmm.
you can make the employee feel that they are part of this bigger thing and that their word is taken and that their idea is like important and how they feel is important, and if you just only tell them I hear you, that's what people need, to be heard.
And that's it. It's so simple.
Exactly. I was given a keynote at an event, and I was just like talking about engagement, like how the new generation is evolving and everything. And one of the company owners, he told me, okay, I did everything. I built this new gym, and no one's using it, and just like I invested so much money. And I asked him, I mean, are you into sports? He said, yes, I'm so much into it. I said, because you built it for yourself. Did you ask your employees whether they wanted a gym
Wow.
at the workplace or not? Like being a woman, I don't like to just like exercise at work and just like all sweaty and take a shower at work. If you ask me, I would ask for a
Right.
voucher at the nearest gym.
Yeah,
So,
right, right, right. So you didn't even ask.
exactly. Why don't you ask? That's so simple. What do people want?
Sounds like a lost opportunity. Sounds like somebody was short-sighted with his money.
Exactly.
So, Mina, if you don't mind, provide us with a comical or inspiring moment that you can recall
Ooh.
in your remote work history.
Yeah. Tell us a story, Mina. Tell us a story.
Oh, obviously, I have all those stories over the last 9 years. Okay, so one is because like you see people on the screen all the time, you don't know how they really look like in real life because you only see half, even quarter of them on the screen. We
Hmm.
just see this part, and so you never know how tall people are or just like how they look like, or sometimes they're just like thinner on the up, so they're just like bigger now. So when I was the country manager at Crossover, we had the country manager meeting, and when we were just like together for the first time, we were just like, we were there was one country manager. He was really tall and big, and I'm this petite woman, and just like he was just like, come on, are you that petite? I was like, come on, are you that tall? And we had photos together just to show other people how we really look like, as a proof, to show the other team members. And also, I was a part of a global team, and I was working for a French company.
All right.
I don't know, but like they cannot say they say the. So like or birthday, the meeting. So like if they want to say the meeting, is the meeting. So I mean, I was on my first call with the CEO, and he was talking in English, but I could not understand what he meant, because I mean he kept saying things in a different way, in a French way. And we were just like asking each other, chatting on the like private chat, asking what he was literally asking us to do. So the thing is, you have to get used to those different kinds of communication styles. So I mean, really, I think communication is really key in remote work. I mean,
agree.
you have to, because sometimes things get lost when you're just like in writing. It's not like being face to face sometimes, so you really just like have to keep the bonds. That's what I really value with my team as well. When we're working remotely, we make sure that we are bonded. So we do like these fun activities, the happy hours, the song contests. I mean, just like things like that, so that we get to know each other personally too. We get to know each other's family, or just like hobbies, what we do, what we like. And I think, by the way, remote work even makes, I think, people closer. It's not like, because people were thinking the other way, that it was like keeping people apart, but not I mean, like when you're working remotely, like my sons, they keep crashing my meetings, or just like, my cat's just like climbing on my lap. So everyone knows about my family, about where I live, like my background, my rooms. So I think it's making even like, it's a more personal way of working, I would say.
Yeah. Well, it's no wonder you are a leader in the happy culture.
Yes, because I feel very happy.
Yes.
I feel very happy after this.
As do I. This is the perfect note to end on. Mine Dedekoca, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for hosting me. I really enjoyed it.
No, as have we. We hope to keep in touch. Where can people find you?
I'm really active on LinkedIn, so with my name and last name, Mine Dedekoca. And they can also email me at mina@happywork.studio.
Fantastic.
That's great. Thank you so much, Mina. We got to do the famous wave on camera. I mean, we got to do it. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Bye.
You've been listening to the Remotely We Are One podcast. Visit us at remotely1.com/podcast for upcoming episodes. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and download our episodes on your favorite podcast app.
Hey, don't forget to clock out.